My glasses. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I get started, I do want to acknowledge that we're hosting today's press conference on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations, and I do want to thank them for their generosity and their hospitality and the love and care they show this great land that we get to live, work, and play on. I also want to acknowledge our incredible team from the City of Vancouver and VPD and my partners here on council and the Chief here, Chief Rye here as well. Also, before I begin, I do want to recognize that what we discussed today and all the conversations about the tragic events that happened on April the 26th following the Lapu Day block party should be approached with sensitivity and care to the families, the friends, and the communities that have been impacted and continue to be impacted. Make no mistake about it, April the 26th was the darkest day in the history of Vancouver. And so what started off as an incredibly beautiful celebration of Filipino culture and community turned into just an incredibly unimaginable tragedy. 11 lives were senselessly lost, many more injured, a lot of trauma, a lot of people witnessed. It was just horrific. Yet in the days, weeks, and months following the tragedy, we did see the true character of our city and of those individuals who call our city home. We saw residents and businesses stepping up to help the victims and their families. We saw an unbelievable outpouring of support, not only towards the Filipino community, but for all the communities that were impacted by the tragedy. Countless acts of love, kindness, and resilience, and we remain eternally grateful for all those who stepped up in such an incredibly difficult time. Now, in the immediate aftermath of the April 26th tragedy, we called for a joint review by the city and the Vancouver Police Department, not only to understand what happened, but to learn, to improve, and to act. In May, a preliminary report was released, and it confirmed that the event on April the 26th was well organized and that all necessary safety and permitting processes were followed. It also confirmed that the event was risk assessed as low based on the available information at that time. Now, with the release of the full final report, our hope is that its findings and recommendations will bring both a clearer sense of understanding and a roadmap for the future so that Vancouverites can continue to enjoy the thousands of events that call our city home each year. So now that brings us to today. Scope-wise, the final report explored a deep analysis of Vancouver's event permitting and safety planning framework, actions taken by the Vancouver Police Department and the City of Vancouver since April the 26th, global trends and risks related to hostile vehicle incursions, how we can design our public spaces to improve safety, and how to strike the right balance between protection, vibrancy, and financial sustainability. Now, as a result, the final report made a number of key findings. It found that Vancouver's special event planning process is comprehensive, collaborative, and thorough, involving all necessary agencies and safety-related considerations to oversee and to help facilitate a safe and successful event. The report also found that the 2025 Lapu Day block party was fully permitted, properly risk assessed, and well coordinated. As previously mentioned, the block party was appropriately risk assessed as low for a major public safety incident based on the evaluation of numerous risk considerations. And most importantly, the event was well organized. The right steps were taken, including multiple reviews, site walks, and coordination with first responders. So in addition to its findings, the report also made several key recommendations that will allow us to keep residents safe while supporting both community events and a vibrant public realm, reinforce safety in all outdoor event planning, standardize early planning and entry and exit control, the creation of vehicle mitigation guidance, expanded training and supports for event organizers, building a Vancouver-specific safety framework for the delivery of permanent hostile vehicle mitigation measures in existing and future public spaces, including future capital projects. And lastly, the report recommends working with senior levels of government on standardized event safety rules, response guides, and funding models. So already to date, the City of Vancouver and the Vancouver Police Department have significantly increased safety measures at events, including the use of barriers and increased police presence. Now, we should be clear that these measures were about reassuring the public and increasing the collective sense of safety while at special events following the incident, not as a response to an increased risk to safety. And I do have the full confidence, in the fact that the City of Vancouver and the Vancouver Police Department will be able to successfully implement these recommendations without delay. Now, our city's approach is viewed as an exemplary model of safety and planning. The Provincial Government's Commission of Inquiry praised it as such earlier this year in their report. That reputation was earned by our city's ability to translate good ideas like the ones found in this report into both actions and results. So with that being said, unfortunately, no city can eliminate all risk. There's not a single city on the planet that can eliminate all risk all the time. But what we can do is plan smarter, act faster, and build our public spaces with these learnings in mind. Now, Vancouver is built on connection, celebration, and community. And while this tragedy has shaken all of us, it will not define us. Instead, it's given us an opportunity for growth and improvement. And so as we look towards the future, we will move forward together with compassion, with care for one another, and with a shared commitment to ensuring every resident feels safe in our great city. So now, before we wrap up, I do want to take a moment to thank everyone who was involved in drafting this report. You know, in stating the obvious, it was a really tough time. There are a lot of emotions, a lot of hurt, and these individuals, the teams, really stepped up during a really trying time. And that team includes our incredible team at the City of Vancouver, our incredible team members at the Vancouver Police Department, and a whole bunch of other stakeholders who shared their perspectives. Needless to say, it takes a lot to pull these reports together, but it's critically important to the future of our city. And it will have a meaningful impact on future events and the safety of residents and visitors who love our city and who want to enjoy our city. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And with that, I just want to thank you for your time today, and I'm now going to pass it over to the Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. The Lapu Day attack was an unspeakable tragedy that left our city forever changed. Nothing we've told you today will take away the pain that so many people in our community are still experiencing. The VPD-led criminal investigation has resulted in 11 second-degree murder charges, and our work is ongoing. While the findings released today confirm that appropriate steps were taken to plan and assess risk prior to the Lapu Day block party, we must acknowledge the impact this mass casualty event continues to have on everyone's sense of safety and well-being. Following Lapu Day, and while this review was taking place, the VPD took immediate action to mitigate risks and ensure the community this summer that events such as Celebration of Lights, Pride, Italian Days, and Kids Fest were safe and secure, with the understanding that we'll never completely eliminate all risks at public events. The findings released today will be used to guide us in the planning and assessment for future events, recognizing the need to balance public safety, community needs, and our need to be fiscally responsible. Thank you. Happy to take questions.
Hi, if folks can line up at the microphone here again, state your outlet name, and if you'd like to direct your question as you see fit. Thanks.
Hi there. Michael Williams, 1130 News Radio. Mayor Sim, you said in July that you were disappointed the city wasn't more involved in the preliminary report. Just wondering how you're feeling now after being able to spearhead your own report, so to speak.
Yeah, like, I guess the answer is we just have to drive forward, right? We can debate these issues all day long, and we can talk about my personal feelings, but our main objective is to make sure that we create a city and we provide public spaces that are as safe as possible. And I'm happy that a lot of work and thought went into this report. There are 8 recommendations, and I'm extremely happy that we've already implemented a few of them already. And so we'll keep on driving forward to make sure that the residents and visitors can experience this great city of ours in a safe manner.
And just to follow up here, and then I know, although it was about the report was about the Lapu Day attack, it wasn't entirely focused on it, but there wasn't any mentions of mental health or any supports in terms of that in the report. Can you say anything about that? I know, again, in July you'd mentioned that the province's report didn't mention mental health.
Yeah. I can't comment on the specifics of what's before the courts right now, on this event. But what I can tell you, based on our experience being in office for the last couple of years, the root cause of a lot of the issues that we see, that we react to after the fact, are based on mental health. And I stand by, what I said back on April the 27th and the emotions around it. We have to get serious about this. We have to, do a deep dive on mental health and not researching it anymore, actually actioning solutions to deal and to, address mental health issues, or, all the measures that we put in place today aren't going to be super effective. And by the way, that is not a City of Vancouver responsibility. So even if we were given $1 trillion, we are not health care. So our hands are tied on this one. And so we are begging for action from the province on this one. And this is not a political statement. It doesn't matter who's in office. This is a problem that's been going on for decades. And so not as mayor, but as a resident of the City of Vancouver, as a citizen of this place, just like everyone else here who have family members, we're all affected by mental health. We have to get serious about this. We're going to be holding press conferences talking about, people getting hurt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Martin McMahon with CTV News, Vancouver. This report calls for provincial and federal legislation to standardize public event safety. Could you just clarify how that would actually make things safer ultimately if there was legislation at the provincial or federal level for these events?
Sure. I can jump in, and then Drazen, come on over, or City. So I can tell you, just from when you standardize public safety events, you create a basement or a platform where, you know, the bar is set higher. It's consistent across the province. With that can come funding, but the bar gets set in a consistent and thorough way across the province. So it just creates standard operating procedures and a minimum level of expectations to serve the public. So I don't know if the city wants to jump in. Okay. Yeah.
And obviously in the briefing beforehand, we didn't get clarity on timeline exactly, and I appreciate there's going to be a process here, but maybe for the mayor, what's your goal in terms of actually moving ahead with implementing the recommendations that are at least within the city's control?
I think we should do as quickly as possible. And what I alluded to earlier, we've already taken steps to address these, some of these issues before the report came out, like the barriers, for example, doing risk assessments of every single event that happens in our city. So you know, we've made progress, and I think the city wants us, and personally, I want us to move as quickly as possible, because at the end of the day, you know, you strip off the uniforms, you strip off the political colors and stuff. We are all just residents of the city, and we want to enjoy the city. And I just think of the day after the event, we had the Sun Run. And I know the person that was putting it together, and one of his sons was working the event, and one of my sons was running in that event. And so as a dad, as a resident, I'm not too concerned about, well, here are the 14 reasons why it's going to take a long time. I just want our family and friends to be safe, just like everyone else here. And so my answer to you is quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Sim, Jack Rabb, City News.
Jack.
The Lapu Day block party, as you mentioned, was deemed low risk, and that was reaffirmed by this report. Despite nearly unobstructed access to the crowded street with no light or heavy barriers deployed, under future hostile vehicle mitigation guidelines, could a low-risk event such as the Lapu Day block party still require those barriers?
I can speak in general terms, but I can pass it over to the experts as well. You know, hindsight's 20/20. And in the context of everything we've done, there was a risk assessment done. You know, we followed all the procedures, and even a third party has validated that, you know, those were the correct steps. The context here is we have 32, and but by the way, I want to preface this with, I want to be very cognizant of the fact that there are still a lot of people hurting. 11 people died. Countless more were injured, and there are a lot of people suffering from trauma, okay? And so I want to answer your question, but I don't want to lose the fact that there are going to be people that don't care about my answer because they're still hurting, and that's normal. We administer about 3,200 events in the city of Vancouver every single year. About 2,200 events, another 1,000 protests. It is not physically or financially viable to, protect every single one. We have to get to the root cause of the problem. And once again, I'm not talking about the specifics of Lapu, the tragic events, because it's before the courts, so I'll make a general comment. What we're finding is the root cause of a lot of these challenges goes back to mental health and people that aren't getting the care they need. And we need to have that conversation, because that's the more effective way of making sure people are safe. Because, during that event, so back to the event, a car was used. Let's say we protected every single event with cars. There's going to be another item in the future. And so we're not going to solve anything unless we get to the mental health aspect of these issues and the root cause of these issues.
Okay, and just to follow up, the Meridian barriers became available in 2017, and I believe in the technical briefing they were mentioning the vehicle tax have been common for about 10 years. Does the city take any accountability for not working on these mitigation processes in terms of harmful vehicle attacks earlier? Why did it take until January of this year?
Sure. And Jeff, you can come in. So we used different types of barricades, trucks, vehicles, and this product came available to us, to our knowledge, just a few years ago. We ordered some, the VPD, and now we're looking at ordering more with the city. And when you have a tragedy like this, you can what if it to death. In this particular incident, the intel was sound, the planning was sound. We have to be fiscally responsible, and we don't want to also police every event like a police state. So, it'd be disrespectful for me to, for the families to what if it to death, but where it's needed, where the assessment confirms that we need barricades, we place barricades and we put officers out with the appropriate deterrence. You want to speak to the barricades? Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Georgie Smythe, CBC. What stands out to me with, now the 3 reports we've had, the preliminary report, this report, and the provincial report, is there continues to be an unanswered question of how to protect the public from the unpredictable. It sort of seems like with now this final report, there is no answer. Is that?
Well, I think the mayor did give an answer, and trying to be, respectful to some core issues without jeopardizing any investigation or criminal proceedings. But going back to the 80s, we invited the world to Vancouver, Expo 86. The world hasn't stopped coming since then. We're a growing city with diversity coming in from all walks of all places in the world. The city's growing up and density's going up. So with that comes more events, more gatherings. This report will create an urgency to, we have best practices, but this will create some urgencies to ensure that we keep up with best practices. So whether it's barricades from the earlier question or a different way to collect intel, we recognize that, we got to continue to grow on public safety along with the rest of the city the way it's growing. So I expect, we've already implemented some of those changes, the city and the VPD together, and I expect those other recommendations to be implemented fairly quickly, at least as the chief I would expect before FIFA.
Sir, can I'll just add a little more color there. And once again, this is going to come from the heart. You basically said, how do we predict the unpredictable, right? It's incredibly hard, and there are going to be so many different things that come up. What I will say, and this is just through my meandering journeys through life, if someone wants to do something, they're going to do it. And so I think the bigger question, or the better question, is how do we, what do we look at to see why people are doing this, and how do we stop them stop them from getting to that place? And once again, I'll go to mental health. And so while we can't predict every single, what's going to happen at every single, event throughout the city, throughout the rest of the time, what we can, I think, agree to is there are individuals that are, suffering from mental health issues that pose a great risk of harm to themselves and others. And when we address that issue, then, that takes care of itself. And I do want to be incredibly respectful to the individuals and the families, the victims, with that answer. But that's the real conversation we should be having. And like I said earlier, until we address that, it's almost impossible to predict these things. They're unpredictable.
Let's say I'm planning an event for next year. I'm looking at these recommendations, updating special event policies, standardizing safety planning, developing new guidelines. If I go on the city's website today, am I seeing this? If not, when am I seeing this update?
Hi, I'm Lisa Parker, Director of Public Space and Street Use and Engineering Services. Our focus has been to get these recommendations in the report to the public. We do currently have a very detailed set of information on our website, and as these recommendations are delivered, we'll be updating the website.
So maybe in a few months, or?
Yeah, so the timeline will be working as quickly as we can. As already said by the mayor, our ambition will be to be doing this as quickly as we can and ensuring, and we won't wait until each recommendation is completed and all of them in their entirety. As some are done and ready to be implementing, we'll move those forward. This summer has been a great chance of learning with the different types of barriers, so we'll be able to move quickly into the guidelines for those mitigation measures as an example.
Hi there, it's Brenna Owen with the Canadian Press. I think this question is maybe for the Chief Constable. I'm just wondering if you could provide some insight into the factors that inform when vehicle barriers might be used versus when they're not in an event that is deemed relatively low risk.
Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to our subject
Sure.
matter expert on that, Superintendent
you.
Newman.
Superintendent Jeff Newman of Vancouver Police Department. So we've been using barriers since since the Olympics, and we accelerated that in around 2018. Whether they're heavy vehicle barriers, light vehicle barriers being cars, and now we're moving over to the Meridian Archer barriers. So we assess what is the vulnerability of the gathering, is it open space, what needs to be controlled. And so we conducted the risk assessment for the Lapu event, and we're going to continue to do that and sort of enhance what we're doing right now and making sure that those barriers are there for even low-risk events, if necessary, going forward. But as has already been said, there's over 3,000 events that we do each year. It'd be extremely challenging to put out barriers at each and every single event. And the public or the organizer might not even want those barriers there because it would restrict access to the people that they're trying to draw.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering if you could provide a little bit of insight into how those decisions are made, like for a relatively low-risk event. If you're looking at putting in barriers, what might be some of the factors? Is it the crowd size, like the location, just a little bit more into the decision making?
Yes, those were outlined in the preliminary report. There's an outline of probably about 10 to 12 bullets in there, but you've already identified as the crowd size, accessibility, open space, is it controlled space, is the organizer participating, is it an event that's occurred before, is it a new event? All those different factors fall into it.
Hello, Andrew Johnson with CTV National News. I know FIFA planning is already well underway. Obviously, a very large event that is not low risk. How is your planning, your approach to keeping people safe at that event changing based on what happened in April and these recommendations?
Sure. So the lead for FIFA is Superintendent Newman, and I'll just speak from a higher level, and Jeff can jump in with the details. So the Vancouver Police controls the domain for security for FIFA, but we're only one piece of the puzzle. The province, the federal government, and the city own other aspects of FIFA. So we've heightened, our assessment, and we've heightened what could be required, knowing the teams we draw could draw different types of crowd. So very alive to the lessons learned from Lapu, and I don't expect any roadblocks where our team identifies where there's a lack of resources, whether it's human resources or equipment resources. We expect those to be met with funding and other support. Now, we supported the G7 in Alberta just a couple of months ago. We know we're going to get support from other jurisdictions across not only BC, the RCMP, other departments, but also from other provincial partners in Alberta and across Canada. So the game's upped, and we'll be entering into a heightened planning stage coming up in the months. You want to add to that, Jeff?
Just to add to what the chief said, the planning's been going on for well over 3 years. And so we have, and part of that planning is engaging with Toronto Police Service, the City of Toronto as another Canadian host city, as well as all the host cities in North America, and then also internationally. So many of the planning team has already been doing all this planning already, knowing that this is a major international event. And as the chief spoke to, the crowd dynamics of what we might expect for FIFA would be significantly different than a family event on John Oliver for Lapu.
Can you give an example of upping your game or a heightened assessment or heightened measures?
I can't say we're going to up our game or heighten measures, but what I can say is that, like I said, we know this is an international event. Working with the RCMP, Toronto Police Service, all the other police agencies through North America, and then also internationally. Like, if you want to call that heightening the game, we're already doing that. We've already been doing that for the last 2.5, 3 years.
Thanks.
Can I just make a comment? I think it's important to state that the VPD and the entire security infrastructure has the full support of the City of Vancouver. And this goes back to when I was first elected. Tour actually saw what happened there and their security infrastructure. I've seen our team in England, basically looking at crowd control and looking at different football or soccer matches, and the infrastructure there. Went toward the Boston Marathon as well and saw their infrastructure there. So from a knowledge perspective, walking the shop floor, our office is totally engaged, so we can understand what our security team is going through and what they need. And make no mistake about it, we will be ready for FIFA, and it will be a safe, successful event.
Thank you.
Hi guys, Alyssa Tibo with Global News. I think this question might be for Chief Rai. Just wondering if you know an update on some of the victims from Lapu Lapu. Is anybody still in hospital?
I don't have any information updated on the victims. I know our victim services unit have been at the front end of supporting the families. Those tragically passed away and currently the ones in hospital. We have a police doctor that we work with as well, connected to the VPD, who's liaising with anybody left in the hospital. But I don't have any specifics on anybody specifically.
Okay. And this is a question for Ms. We talked about it in the tech briefing. A lot of events may not be financially viable next year. This is about a balance. You said if somebody wants to do something, they're going to do it. How do you predict the unpredictable? Yeah. What do you say to event organizers who are watching this right now and they're hearing guidelines and barriers and just thinking everything's going to get too expensive now?
Yeah, let's call it what it is. It's going to be a challenge. And we want to balance financial sustainability with the ability to celebrate as well. And so at the City of Vancouver, we will do everything we can to help out organizers of these events, because at the end of the day, it contributes to the social fabric and the vibrancy of our city. And that's something that should be celebrated. And so, we're going to do our work. And the brutal reality is the world has changed, in the perception and the reality of hosting these events. And so we're going to need assistance from senior levels of government. And I do want to stress that it's actually not only, I believe it's the right thing to do. And if we're just to make an economic case for it, and I'm going to get a little technical here. The City of Vancouver will have the expenses of making these events safe, but we do not get any of the revenues from that. But the province gets these revenues. So when you think of an event and you think of the economic activity that it generates, it far exceeds a contribution towards the safety of these events. And so I would once again stress to senior levels of government that they get the tax revenues through income taxes and what have you. It wouldn't be a smart thing not to fund these events, because if they don't fund them and these events disappear, not only do we lose the vibrancy of our city and our province and our country, it will hit their bottom line. And it's not a smart financial decision to just walk away from the stuff. So we're going to encourage senior levels of government to contribute to help us out and to help those organizers. And that's our commitment to any organizer that's trying to organize an event in the City of Vancouver.
All right, last call for questions. Okay, thanks. If there's anything folks need in follow-up, media@vancouver.ca. Thanks for your time today. Have a good afternoon.